Alright, everybody, welcome back to the channel, the main event here. Today we're going to be going over the victory road to Yokohama regulation D tournament, the biggest regulation D tournament to date, the first like really huge tournament with the most usable results, right? Because it's 380 players and it's players from all over the world who competed. So it's going to give you a good idea of what worlds may look like, not will look like, but it gives you a good chance to see what people are thinking so far for an event that's basically a month away. So we're going to go over first the winning team. Then we're going to go over the top 8, and then we're going to look at day 1 usage stats and then day 2 conversion rate. So I'll probably have that stuff timestamped below. So before we get started, did anything about this tournament surprise you? If you kept up with the tournament, if you didn't, after I go through everything, let me know if anything that I talked about surprised you. So the tournament was won by Thiago Latanzi. Hope I'm saying that correctly, from Brazil. Shout out to Brazil. Let's go to the team list here. So the team won with Rillaboom, Urshifu, Tornadus, Fluttermane, Qianpao, Cresselia. A lot of Pokemon that I think are really good at the top of the format right now. The Rillaboom is pretty standard. Everyone's going to probably be having Assault Vest Rillaboom. Terrified, the Terra choice. There are some people using other Terras like Terra Rock because they resist fire as well. They resist flying. The Rock also resists like extreme speed. Fire doesn't do that, but this player obviously was not that concerned about it. And I'll show you why when I go through the rest of the team. But yeah, pretty standard Rillaboom. They're using the goggles Ursh that I like to use. I think it's the best Urshifu in my humble opinion, because I just think getting redirected into Amoonguss is so bad for you that it's better off to just not do that. And then you're wasting your Terra on grass, like to avoid that otherwise. I think goggles is better because you can still get the damage with water, right? Terra water is a bigger damage buff than Mystic water is. So I think the Terra is fine, and then use the goggles so you can ignore Amoonguss, and then you just like always beat Amoonguss and whatever's next to it. The Tornadus is also really good for certain matchups here because it's Rocky Helmet, which leads me to believe that it's really bulky. Because the Tornadus needs to be able to take hits if it's going to be running the Rocky Helmet, right? There's no EVs here because these are the open team submissions. No one's going to just give up their spreads like that for the most part, unless if they plan on using the team or the spreads again. Has Taunt, Rain Dance to boost your Urshifu, Bleakwind Storm to hit stuff in rain, Ghost so that you don't get faked out since you don't have the Clover Cloak, and also to avoid extreme speeds, Taunt just to stop probably stuff like Amoonguss, stop Crest if they don't have Mental Herb, because it is an open team sheet tournament. So you can see what has the Mental Herb and what can be taunted and what can't be. So Taunt is really strong in open team sheets. The Fluttermane is pretty standard. Terra type water is something that's picking up because people want to be able to not die to asserting strikes 100% of the time, which is very understandable. So it's probably a bulky Flutter. And because the team has Rain Dance, it probably has enough bulk in it to like survive like a surging strikes in rain as long as it Terra Waters, is my assumption here. But also I think you're probably going to avoid clicking Rain Dance against opposing Urshifu Waters anyway, and just try to just KO it with Moonblast. The Qianpao is very standard, very standard Qianpao. Ice Spinner, Sucker Punch, Sacred Sword, Protect, Sash, Ghost, right? You'll see that everywhere. The most interesting part is this Cresselia. This is more like an old school kind of Cresselia. It has Moonlight over Lunar Blessing. Moonlight probably the choice here because it gives Cresselia more recovery than Lunar Blessing does. Lunar Blessing gives you recovery to you and a teammate, but in this case it seemed like they just wanted to keep their crest as healthy as possible with leftovers, and Moonlight doesn't even have like Mental Herb. Obviously it doesn't really need it because it's not running Trick Room, and it has leftovers, so if you get taunted on your Moonlight, you still have leftovers. You still have leftovers for recovery. It is a Stored Power, Dazzling Gleam, Calm Mindset. Calm Mind makes this thing super bulky on the special side, and it probably has a lot of physical defense investment then, right? So you can Calm Mind up to show up your special defenses and do more damage with Stored Power and Dazzling Gleam. Stored Power is a really hard move to use on Crest for most players. Obviously, it wasn't that hard for this player because they won the old tournament. But Stored Power is really difficult to use, so it's not something I would recommend just picking up like that. I think it's something you need to really practice with. Like if the person were to release a rental, I think people would struggle to use this Cresselia set a little bit, just because it's like kind of like an expert set in my opinion. But it's a really good team. I think these are 6 of the top 20 Pokemon that if you're not prepared to see in a battle, you're not playing the format correctly, because you're going to see all of these multiple times. Even if it's not in the same 6, you're just going to see them all the time. So I think it's something you need to be prepared for. So looking at the top 8, Fluttermane is still as dominant as ever, kinda, at least on day 2s and in top cuts. It has fallen off a little bit, if you want to call it a fall off, as far as like overall usage, but like it's 7 of the top 8 teams, and I want to say like 15, yeah, like 15 of the top 16 teams, and 17 of the top 16 as well. Like there's a lot of fun to make. Always will be. Urshifu, these are all Urshifu Rapids, 1, 2, because I can highlight it and see it. Urshifu Rapid, Urshifu Rapid. I'm going to show you something interesting about Urshifu. Oh, this is a single. So there was a single Urshifu single strike, caution cough for 7th place. But tons of Urshifu either way, right? Whether it's rapid or single, Urshifu is going to be something that's really prevalent. We see here we have a Frigiraf, which is interesting. Actually, let's look at that, because I think this is a Terra Water Rocky Helmet. Yeah, so Terra Water Rocky Helmet for Trick Room and Prison is actually so clutch, like, as part of this team. Because yeah, you have two ghost types, right? But let's say you don't want to bring those ghost types, you still have something to block priority. And not only does it block priority from like extreme, it blocks like Urshifu's priority with Aqua Jet. If for some reason people are still using Califin over Urshifu, it blocks that. But yeah, it blocks like Fake Out, obviously, so you can get up like oh, they don't have any subs, or like even a Trick Room user, but still blocking Fake Out. So like with Flutter, Dragapult, and Frigiraf, like Fake Out and extreme speed is not something this person has to worry about like at all for the most part. So it's actually a really good tech. Rocky Helmet as well, so like the Urshifus, if they do try to strike into it, they're going to take a lot of damage, and you're not going to get any damage either, right? Because you can Terra Water, which is really cool to me. Iron Hands has 2 placements in the top 8, which is nice. Amoonguss has what, 2 placements in top 4, and then 3 in the top 8, which is to be expected. Actually, sometimes you expect to have even more, right? Because Amoonguss is so good. Heatran is very, very well represented in top 8. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 Heatrans in the top 8. So like I said, something that's to be expected. Cresselia has 3 in the top 4, which is actually incredible. That's an incredible conversion rate. I'm surprised it's not more in the top 8, but 3 in the top 8 and 3 in the top 4 is actually insane. Cresselia is like something that if you are not looking, if you're in your builder, you're not thinking about Cresselia, then you need to start over. It is really, really good right now. I'm gonna check the team just to see if the sets are similar or different. Okay, so yeah, so I'm glad I did this. Cresselia here, the last one we saw was Leftovers, and it was, what you call it, Moonlight. This one is Rocky Helmet, Terra Fairy, Moonblast, Lunar Blessing, Ally Switch, Trick Room. So it's meant to set up Trick Room, it's meant to switch targets with the opponent. I hate Ally Switch so much. Lunar Blessing for recovery for both, and then Rocky Helmet. So like, this is actually really cool, right? Because let's say your opponent is in a situation where they have their Urshifu on the field against your Ursaluna, and let's say you don't have your Terra Water available. You have to worry about the ally switch into this Rocky Helmet, which is actually pretty insane now that I think about it. It's actually really cool. That's really, really cool. I can't even hate on it. I can't even hate on this. I think this one also, or is it the same one? No. Nope, that's not the same one. Okay, so this one is Moonblast, Lunar Blessing, Ally Switch, Trick Room. Moonblast, Trick Room, Lunar Blessing. Okay, so they both have the same move, but this one is Goggles for Amoonguss, which makes sense, right? Because with Goggles and Lunar Blessing, you kind of just make Amoonguss pretty useless because you can't sleep the Crest, and if you try to sleep the Crest's partner, Crest will just wake them up and give them healing. So that's actually makes a lot of sense to me as well. While having your own Amoonguss, Clear Smog I think is a really good call on Amoonguss right now, for 2 reasons. One, Goodra is pretty annoying, and I think this team does a good job with Iron Hands and Ursaluna of making Goodra Terra, and then once you tear off the steel, Amoonguss can Clear Smog away those shelter boosts. So I think that is actually a very strong call there. And I want to check out, yeah, so I checked out all 3 crests. Champao is probably going to be the same Champao for all 3. Dragapult with another top cut appearance, right? A lot of people don't think Dragapult's that good, but like it won the North American International Championships. It won like the first tournament of Reg C, and here it is again, top cutting Reg D. So like Dragapult is something that you not necessarily need to prepare for the same way you prepare for like Dragonite, but kind of the same there, because they do a lot of the same things, right? Like if you click it, it's probably gonna be a Choice Band Dragonite. Yeah, Choice Band Dragonite is really fast, so it's not priority, but it's still fast, right? So it's still most likely going first. Dragon Darts, Phantom Force, Terra Blast, U-Turn. So it's something you need to prepare for, right? Because Champao plus Dragon Pokemon is something you need to watch out for. There's a Dozo in top 8, and I think like Dozo is kind of good right now because people are not really preparing for it. Some people that are running Clear Smog for like Goodra will have a better matchup into this, but overall, like people are just not really thinking about Dozo right now, and like for good reason, right? There's 2 Dozos in the top like 10, but another one here, but it's not like it's like everywhere like it used to be, right? So I think it makes sense that some people are not thinking about it, but I think because people are not thinking about it, that's what makes those the strongest. So it's something I think you need to prepare for going forward. So that is the, you know, the top 8, the notable things. There's a Goldango, Iron Hands is all up in here. I want to look at the conversion stuff. So if you look at the usage stats here, Fluttermane at 56% is like, usually it's like 70 to 75%. So like obviously that's not as high as it usually be, but 56%, 57% is still actually insane. This number here, D2, D1, is the day 2 to day 1 conversion rate, right? So the percentage of the Fluttermanes in day 1 that converted are 12%. So according to Victory Road, the formula to use here, the number of day 2 players divided by day 1 is 8.4%. So if a Pokemon has has a higher value than 8.4%, that means it performed really strongly on day 1 and made it to day 2. But if it's lower, you can kind of say it underperformed. But again, I think you have to look at if you're under 8, but you have to also look at the top cut, right? So I'll show you what I mean. So Fluttermane, 56% on day 1, 12% usage on day 2. So it means the conversion rate was like really high. It was something to be expected with Fluttermane. So Urshifu Water, really high day 1 usage, 47.6%, a little bit under 8%. So it's not like it really underperformed, but it's about like slightly under, like close to average. But if you go back here, right, even though it kind of underperformed on day 2 overall, it still dominated the top 8, right? There's 6 Urshifu Waters in top 8. So I still think you have to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, the day 2 conversion, just because there are so many. By the nature of there being so many of them, that then there's still like players who are not that great with it using it as well. So that's just something that's going to happen a lot of the time. So like top cut gives you a little bit better indicator of how good the Pokemon is in the hands of like the best players. Next up here, we have Amoonguss, which is always going to be in top 5 usage most likely, especially in a format with Urshifu Water. 38%, 8% conversion, so just about average conversion. Same for Chiampao, roughly the same usage. Amoonguss 3% less, but the same conversion, about 8%. Iron Hands is something I was not considering to see in the top 5, but it makes sense because it's just so bulky. It has a solid matchup, a solid 50-50 matchup into like Ursaluna, because they have similar stat spreads and identical speed. It also has like fake out to kind of stop it from moving. So I think it makes sense. And also the conversion rate's really high, right? It's right under Flutter's. Flutter's is 12 and this is 11. So it makes sense. And we're gonna get to Ursaluna in a second because actually it's pretty interesting. Heatran 20% day 1, 10% conversion. That's really strong. Heatran is something you have to watch out for a lot. Especially those substitute Terra Grasses, because if you let these Heatran get up behind a sub, it's really hard to break if you don't have the right damage into it. I want to skip a couple because I want to go down to Ursaluna, right? Ursaluna is 13th. You would expect it to be higher, and 15% usage, 58 players. It's not as high as you would expect, right? Like Goldango was higher. You wouldn't expect that coming directly that Goldango would be higher, or Iron Hands would be higher than Ursaluna. You think Ursaluna would be like top 5 in usage? I think people are a little bit afraid of the fact that he takes a turn to set up. But if you look at the conversion, right, it's 12%, which is right under Cresselia. It's better than like Landorus. It's better than Heatran. It's better than Hands. Better than Amoonguss and Chiampao. Better than Urshifu Water. It's as good as Fluttermane. And then if you, again, like I said with the top cut, go to the top, there's 2 of them in the top 4. And these 2 played each other, right? So only one could make finals. But if there was one in each top 4 match, there's a real world where like it's an Ursaluna versus Ursaluna final. So just because it's not as used as we expected it to be, does not mean it's something you can just not think about. It's really strong still, and I expect that usage to skyrocket. Is another one in the top 10 here. So that's something to still watch out for no matter what. Also, the Urshifu Dark had a little bit of a better conversion rate to day 2 than Urshifu Water is. Just because I think this actually worked out in this way because Urshifu, either form you use, is really good, right? So many people are using this. It's just common that a lot of people are not going to make day 2 because only a few people can make it. But if a few people use a Pokemon and a bunch of them make day 2, it's going to lead to this high conversion rate. So like 4 made it versus like 13, and I think but only one of these made the top 8. Let me see, is it the 7th place one by Carson? Yeah, Urshifu single. So yeah, only one of them made the top 8. So Urshifu's Water's still probably a little bit better right now, or at least a little bit more common. Better is subjective depending on what you are facing. Indeedee is really popular right now. Obviously 8.9% doesn't sound like super popularity, but like that's high for Indeedee. With a really strong conversion rate, because I think just blocking priority and redirection is just always going to be strong. And you can't ignore Indeedee's redirection, right? Because it's not grass based, and it's just really bulky. A lot of people doing like Rocky Helmet stuff, so like redirect Surging Strikes into it, and it also blocks Sucker Punch and Extreme Speed. So I expect Indeedee to continue to be good. And whenever Indeedee's good, Armarouge is going to be there to follow. So as you can see, it's right a few places down behind it. Bundle is something that I was not expecting to see a lot of, but doing pretty well on day one as far as showing up. But 0% conversion is not great. You don't ever see that for Bundle. 0% conversion is not something you ever notice. Dozo is still here, but Tatsugiri is not in the top. Okay, it's in the top 30, but it's not in the top. Not like close to top 20 like Dozo is. I think people are just afraid of Dozo, but Dozo's good right now. I'm the biggest Dozo hater, but it's good right now. I think it's good right now. Dozo plus Geary, I think it's good right now, is what I should say. Gyarados, I'm surprised is not higher. I think I guess new toy syndrome with Landorus, but I think like this. I think Gyarados as an intimidator is probably better into like Water Earth than like any other intimidator we have, right? Because it just doesn't die to Surging Strikes no matter what. So I think Gyarados is probably gonna end up getting picked up. It had no conversion rate though, which is actually interesting. Also a surprising conversion rate is Gastrodon. Gastrodon is what people are using to stop. It's to plug the hole in their teams that are basically them losing to Urshifu. And that's zero Gastrodon made day 2. 18 showed up and 0 made day 2. That's really surprising to me. Especially because Sempra won 2 limitless tournaments with Gastrodon. Maybe people are just not playing it right, and he is. That's pretty interesting to me. The most surprising thing is the conversion rate for Torkoal. Like, not a lot of people are bringing it, but 3 out of 17, 18% conversion rate made it to day 2, even though Torkoal in the top cut is not something that happened. Yeah, unfortunately, no Torkoals in the top 8. It wasn't. So this now, it did come in the top 16. I actually want to try this Charizard team out. There is a rental out for it that I was able to snag yesterday. I'm gonna give that team a shot. So yeah, this is kind of what's like working right now, what's not working. All these Pokemon here are Pokemon that are good. Arcanine even is pretty solid right now, even though its typing is atrocious on the defensive end, but it's really good offensively. Fire Rock coverage is actually really nice. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought of the Pokemon in the top cut, the Pokemon's day 1 to day 2 conversion rate. Like I said, the question today: did anything in here surprise you at all? Once again, congratulations to the winner, Tiago Latanzi from Brazil. $1,300 prize is nice. And you know what's crazy? This player's not even going to Worlds. Their Twitter, they posted that like that people are lucky they're not going to Japan. And like, you know, maybe this player's right. Maybe you are all lucky that they're not going to Japan. Maybe they'd win the whole thing. Because this is a good small sample size, good example of what you can expect going forward. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being subscribed. And I'll see you guys in the next video.